Welcome to the World of Wonders channel, where there are stories about the past of our planet and the civilizations that lived in it. Don't forget to press the like button if you like the video, and subscribe to the channel so that you receive everything new. Let's get started.
Long ago, the world was full of myths and real stories about civilizations that are gone now. These stories, though not complete and often mysterious, give us a cool look into the past. They tell stories of what people achieved, how cultures changed, and how people always wanted to learn and make beautiful things. Among these stories, few are as interesting as the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Of all the amazing things in ancient times, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon stand out. They show how smart and skilled the people were at building. These gardens, supposedly built by King Nebuchadnezzar II for his wife Amethyst, were amazing in how they were built and the plants they held. They were like an oasis in the desert, a beautiful paradise floating in the air. Old writers described their amazing beauty, and people have been fascinated for centuries. Writers like Strabo and Philo of Byzantium described gardens built in layers with exotic plants and flowers, waterfalls, and clever ways to water the plants. These descriptions have inspired many artists and caused lots of discussions among scholars. Come with me as we go back in time to explore the mystery of Babylon's Hanging Gardens, an ancient wonder full of secrets. We'll travel through history, putting together clues from old writings, archaeology, and modern research to find the truth behind this legendary wonder. Historians and archaeologists still argue about whether the Hanging Gardens even existed. Some say that there isn't enough real evidence to prove they were real, while others believe they existed but haven't been found yet. Some believe they were a real place, showing how powerful and rich the Babylonian Empire was. They say the gardens were a symbol of how the empire could control nature and create beauty in a tough environment. Others think they were just a story passed down through many years. They think the gardens were a myth, a story made up to show how grand and rich Babylon was. Let's look at the evidence, both historical and archaeological, to try and solve the mystery of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. By carefully looking at old texts, modern ideas, and ongoing digs, we'll try to find the truth behind one of history's biggest mysteries. To understand why the Hanging Gardens are so fascinating, we first need to go to ancient Mesopotamia, to the city of Babylon. This very old city, considered one of the first important cities, was a center of culture and new ideas. Located next to the Euphrates River, Babylon was a grand and advanced city. Its location made it a center for trade and cultural exchange. Its tall walls, decorated with shiny bricks showing mythical creatures, protected a busy city. The Ishtar Gate, one of the city's most famous structures, showed how skilled the Babylonians were at building. In the center of the city was the Grand Temple of Marduk, showing how religious the Babylonians were. This huge temple wasn't just a place to worship, but also a symbol of the city's devotion to its gods. Babylon's streets were full of merchants, artisans, and scholars from all over the known world. The city's markets had exotic goods, and its schools were places of learning and wisdom. Its rulers, especially Nebuchadnezzar II, wanted to make the city even more grand by building ambitious projects. His reign was a time of great architectural achievements and cultural growth. It's in this setting of power, wealth, and artistic ambition that the legend of the Hanging Gardens begins. These gardens, with their lush plants and intricate design, have fascinated people for centuries, symbolizing the best of Babylonian skill and beauty. The story of the Hanging Gardens is both interesting and hard to pin down. Ancient texts, written hundreds of years after the gardens were supposedly built, describe them beautifully. One popular story says King Nebuchadnezzar II built them as a gift for his wife, Amethyst, who was from Media. Missing the green mountains of her home, Amethyst wanted the peace of nature in the dry lands of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar, wanting to make his wife happy, ordered the building of an amazing garden unlike any other. This garden, according to the story, would be a green paradise, showing his love, power, and a wonder of the ancient world. Even though no one has found any actual pieces of the Hanging Gardens, old descriptions give us hints about their design. The gardens were supposedly built on platforms, stacked on top of each other, rising high above the city walls. These platforms, held up by big arches and columns, were made of baked brick and asphalt, which were easy to find in ancient Babylon. Each level, filled with rich soil, was said to have many different kinds of exotic plants, trees, and flowers. Water taken from the nearby Euphrates River flowed through a system of pumps and channels, watering the gardens and creating lots of waterfalls. Section 5. The Enigma of Irrigation. How were the gardens watered? Watering the Hanging Gardens, if they were real, would have been a really impressive feat of engineering. Old stories say that a complicated system of screws, chains, and buckets powered by slaves or oxen was used to bring water up from the Euphrates to the top levels of the gardens. This clever technology, called a screw pump, is thought to have been invented by Archimedes hundreds of years later. But some historians think such a system would have been too difficult, needing tons of workers and constant repairs. The mystery of how the Hanging Gardens were watered, if at all, is still being debated today. Section 6. Fact, Fiction and Archaeology. The search for evidence. Stories from old writers like Herodotus, a Greek historian who travelled all over the Persian Empire, say the Hanging Gardens existed, but his descriptions are short and don't give many specifics. Other old texts, like those by Strabo and Diodorus Siculus, give more details, but they were written centuries after the gardens were supposedly built. Archaeological evidence for the Hanging Gardens is scarce and doesn't prove much. Digs at Babylon have uncovered the bases of huge buildings, but none can be definitely connected to the gardens. Some archaeologists think the gardens may have been built on top of older buildings, making them even harder to find. Section 7. Theories and Debates. Unraveling the mystery of the gardens' location. If they existed, the exact location of the Hanging Gardens is still debated. Some scholars think they were inside Babylon's walls, close to the Euphrates River. Others think they might have been outside the city, maybe near a canal connected to the Euphrates. New research has another theory, that the Hanging Gardens weren't in Babylon at all, but in Nineveh, the capital of Assyria. This theory, based on how people understand old texts and archaeological discoveries, suggests that the Assyrian king Sennacherib, not Nebuchadnezzar II, built the gardens. Section 8. A Legacy of Wonder, the enduring allure of the Hanging Gardens. Even though we don't have definite proof, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon are still fascinating. Their amazing beauty, clever design, and the mystery around whether they existed have made them one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The story of the Hanging Gardens reminds us how clever people can be and how beautiful nature is. Whether real or just a story, the gardens remind us that people can create, invent, and inspire others. Section 9. Conclusion. The Hanging Gardens, an eternal testament to human ingenuity. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, a mystery wrapped in legend, show how clever and ambitious people were in ancient times. These gardens, often described as a beautiful paradise, were supposedly built by King Nebuchadnezzar II for his wife, Amatis, who missed the green hills and valleys of her home. The gardens were an amazing feat of engineering, with a smart way to water the plants using water from the Euphrates River. Whether they were really next to the Euphrates River or just a story, their lasting impact is how they make people wonder and become curious. The stories of the Hanging Gardens have fascinated historians, archaeologists, and travelers for centuries, causing debates and explorations to find their real location and if they even existed. The search for the Hanging Gardens continues because people always want to know the secrets of the past. Modern technology and archaeology have given us new information, but the mystery is still unsolved. Every discovery gets us closer, but also makes us ask new questions about the ancient world and its wonders. Maybe someday we'll know the truth about this ancient wonder. Until then, the Hanging Gardens will represent human creativity and our never-ending search for knowledge. They remind us of the amazing things our ancestors did and the stories that have shaped how we understand history. Until then, the Hanging Gardens will keep calling to us. letting us imagine a world where the beauty of nature was stronger than the harsh realities of the ancient world. They connect myth and reality, encouraging us to dream and explore, to look for the wonders hidden in history.